Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are continuing our journey recapping season 16 of Shark Tank, and today we're on episode 5. If you like reality TV content, maybe check out the channel, subscribe, it's a good time over here. I'm really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by my 3rd anniversary on YouTube, which will be next year in the fall, so if I can make that happen, that'd be great, and if you want to help me with that, that'd also be great. We are also once again blessed to be joined by Max Maxwell. Our sharks for the episode are Barbara, Kevin, Lori, Mark, and guest shark Rashawn Williams, who is a limited partner of the Atlanta Falcons and venture capitalist. Our first pitch of the night is ChompShop. Max and Kelsey walked into the tank looking for $250,000 for 5% of their child-safe cardboard cutting machine. Here it is. It works kind of similarly to a bandsaw, except for instead of being a saw, it literally works like a hole punch, chomping down bit by bit on the cardboard until you produce your fun shapes that you can make into all sorts of projects. It costs them $73.81 to make, and they're retailing it for $230. They had launched the website for pre-orders less than a year ago at the time of filming. When they were in the tank, they actually hadn't shipped any out yet.
Now that we understand exactly what the product does, and by the way, I would say I made the best shark. So
That's really good, actually.
thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. But let's talk about sales because you better have some.
As far as sales go, they say they raised $1.2 million on Kickstarter in October of 2023, and then they said they went on to raise an additional $1 million, and then we get the number that they did $2.1 million in pre-orders, but $1.2 million and $1 million combined is $2.2 million, so I don't actually completely 100% understand what they're calling what, if they're classifying pre-orders as something different from the Kickstarter, which might make sense. I'm not sure. Those are the sales numbers I have for you, though. Aside from Kickstarter, they've also raised $5,000 in a safe from various friends and family.
What valuation?
Doesn't matter, it's $5,000.
And now we get my favorite time of year on Shark Tank, where I get to explain a safe. This is my 3rd year in a row explaining safe agreements, and I don't think I've gotten any better. So once again, I'll be linking the same video I usually link, where there's somebody smarter than me explaining it. But if you don't need like a really good explanation, the idea of a safe, what it actually means, S-A-F-E, means a simple agreement for future equity. The simplest way I can think to explain it is somebody gives you money for the promise of future equity in the business. So it's kind of like getting an IOU of equity, kind of like that. That's the best way I can think to describe it. Again, if you want like a really good in-depth explanation, go check out that video. And them saying they got a safe agreement with their friends and family leads Rashawn to get on a whole like soapbox about how he hates safes because they're terrible for investors because there's no promises or guarantees of anything and blah, blah, blah. And it's so funny because whatever, he can feel however he wants to as an investor about safes. But it was a safe from their friends and family, and it's $5,000. And this man just goes on a tirade about it. And I'm just like, bro, you are not making me like you anymore. I'm so sorry. So Kevin wants to know a little bit more about the business because as you can kind of see in the pictures earlier, they have all these like projects of cardboard things. So Kevin wants to know if they're just selling the machine or if they're selling the products or what's exactly going on. And they say at the moment they're just selling the machines, and then they have projects on their website. I think from what I was looking at on their website, spoiler alert ahead, it seems like when you buy the Chomp saw, you get like a project booklet of some different various projects to try, but they also said that they're hoping in the future to set up some sort of subscription model for different projects for kids where they'd get little bits and bobs to finish out a project that would be STEM focused, teaching different STEM abilities. Obviously, since they haven't shipped any of these out yet, the sharks are very curious about when they think that will happen, and they say that they're hoping to ship them out at the end of the month. So, spoiler alert, they have shipped them. That's why you haven't been hearing me, like, if you saw my Terrace Room video where I kept being like, hypothetically, it'll be this much. They actually did ship out, it looked like in October of this year, around October 25th. We'll talk about that some more at the end, but They did ship, unlike the other one. And Kevin decides he wants to take a flyer on them. He points out that it's super risky since they haven't actually fulfilled any of the orders yet, and that risk will be reflected in his offer, which is $250,000 for 20%. Mark then asks them what their lead time for production is going to be, and they say 17 weeks, which is obviously kind of a problem because they don't really know how much they need. If they order too many and then that demand's not there, they're just sitting around. If the demand is huge, they don't have enough and people are upset. On top of that, it makes it really hard to do deals with retailers. Then Rashawn pops in to say he thinks it's great, but unfortunately it's just too early for him and he's out. But that is completely and totally fine because he's literally the only shark not interested. Next, we have Lori pop in and she says she will offer $250,000 for 20%.
That's my offer.
Yeah,
same offer.
Then we have Mark come in and do what Mark does best, which is come in at the last minute and undercut everybody with his offer of $250,000 for 15%. Then boom, Lori says, "Hey bestie, we're the dynamic duo. Do you want to split this deal with me?" And of course, Mark is always down to partner with Lori. So now they have an offer from the dynamic duo of $250,000 for 15%. So now they'd be getting two sharks with that deal and at a lower equity. And in an unsurprising move, they end up making the deal with Mark and Lori for $250,000 for 15%. So like I said earlier, they have actually shipped them. They shipped around the end of October this year, so there aren't a whole lot of reviews yet, but from some things I was seeing, it looks like they're having some issues with the power button getting stuck on a bunch of the units. It looks like they're trying to resolve that with the people who ordered them. So similar to like I was saying with the last product and just how I feel about technology, things like this in general, I personally would just wait till all the kinks get worked out and then order one. At least in this scenario though, versus last week, we're in the watch everybody else get them and see if they work spot. Terrace Room, we're still waiting to see if it's real. So, you have a much better chance of getting this one if you like this product. And personally, I love this product. I was like, oh, that 100% would have been something I was just obsessed with as a kid. And I talked to my parents about it, and they said the exact same thing immediately. Once it came up, they were like, oh, we would have had to buy that for Morgan for Christmas. That would have been such a good one. I'm always been like a little crafty kid. Like, honestly, I kind of want one now. As an adult, it just looks so fun. There was somebody on the Shark Tank subreddit who said they had a toy kind of similar to this back in the 90s, and they still sell them, fortunately, so they were able to link us to the product. It's for wood, though, but it literally is like a little wood bandsaw for kids. I had no idea that it existed, and I just think that's so cool. I love products like this. Very nifty. Obviously, that one is a little different design-wise and what it should do-wise, but just very, very cool. I also saw people talking about how this could be really good for cosplayers, which I can definitely see that. Like I was saying, I'm a crafty adult, and I'm just sitting here like, oh, I could build some stuff. I could build some stuff with that. I also think it'd be really cool to see this in some libraries. I know libraries sometimes have maker spaces or they'll rent equipment out. It'd be really cool if they could find a way to like maybe try to partner with libraries, get the word out about them. I don't know. Overall, I really like this product. I think one of the main criticisms I saw was the price, which I do get it is a little more expensive, but I also kind of get it for what it is. It's not like it's just some crap, like, toy that your kid's gonna, like, break. Like, this is like a piece of machine. I don't know how to describe it better. Like, it's like a machine. Like, it's gonna get some wear and tear. You want it to be nice. So, this is a caveat though. So, if it works really well and it's like doing what it should do according to them and how they described it in the tank, I do kind of get the price. It would be nice if it could get lower, but I'm not really one of the ones harping on the price, but definitely an interesting one. I'll definitely be watching to see if they're able to correct some of these issues, like I'm watching Terrace Room. Not as hard as I'm watching Terrace Room, though, but I think I'll be keeping up with this one to see how it goes. I'm sorry, one last thing that I completely forgot to mention. My favorite part of this whole pitch is the sharks are playing with the thing, obviously, like they do with all the products. They're trying it out, and Lori was having a little issue, like, kind of understanding how it worked, and the guy goes, it's like a bandsaw, which was just so funny to me, because, like, Look at Lori's never touched a bandsaw. Like, that's not helpful. I also saw somebody trying to, like, make fun of her in the Reddit thread about it. And luckily other people came in to be like, not everybody knows how to use, like, you know, equipment, but just so funny. It's just like a bandsaw. Lori, oh yeah, that thing I use all the time. So it was so funny to me. Our second pitch of the night is Chalkless. James and Greg walked into the tank looking for $400,000 for 4% of their grip enhancer. Here it is. It comes in these little containers so you can take it on the go. And it comes out kind of like a powder, it seems like to me. And you rub it into your hands, and it's supposed to take the oil out of your hands to help improve your grip.
It almost feels like chalk, but more permanent almost.
It's actually nothing like chalk, to be technically correct.
That's why they call it.
Which is why it's
Chalkless, right?
Before we get into numbers and everything, they obviously want to show that the product works. So they have Rashawn come up and do like this little grip test thing with this bar they have. And Rashawn is so funny about it. It did give him like 1 point in my mind. Not enough though. He's still at the bottom of the fish tank for ranking of sharks, but funny.
So that right there, you maxed out about 14 foot-pounds.
You ever seen anything like that?
Best one I've ever seen.
The only sales number we get is that their year-to-date is $740,000. Are they profitable? I don't know. Is this their first year in business? I really don't know. That was the only sales number we got. I'm sorry, y'all. I can only give you what they give us. It's very unfortunate, in my opinion. For the cost breakdown, they talk about their 15-gram bottle, which is 100 doses. Side note, I could only find this on their Amazon. I didn't see it on their website, so I wonder if they're phasing this product out. And then they also have their 8-gram bottle. They did not say how many doses that one is. The 15-gram bottle retails for $35.99, and the 8-gram bottle retails for $24.99. Then there's the cost to make.
We prefer to have that discussion offline.
Obviously, this causes an uproar among the sharks because that's just not how the show works. Then finally, he tells us that they make 67% blended margin, which is just so silly to just, like, there's so many times on the show before where people just say what the margin is, and the sharks are fine with it. So weird to be like, I'm not going to say anything, but then say that. And it also gives us a classic Mark moment.
The fact that you gave us your blended margins, but wouldn't tell us your cost just annoyed the out of me, so I'm out.
While they're giving their spiel, kind of talking about the product, they say nobody ever thinks about grip, which Mark immediately shuts down, being like, what are you talking about? All athletes do, like, all the time.
I mean, LeBron James, you know.
LeBron James would benefit from our products so much you cannot imagine.
Then we don't want him to have it.
And they concede that Mark is right about that, but what they were saying is more the general masses don't think about grip, which fine, but I don't really know what they mean by this still, because they continue to give examples that are sports related, like pickleball, like anything they brought up was all still sports related, gym, lifting. It was like, yeah, what are the normal uses then? But whatever, go off, live your dreams. Then Kevin asks Mark the first question I was thinking, which is this something that would be illegal in the NBA? Which Mark informs us it is not. Then Lori asks the next question I was thinking, which is there anything proprietary about this? And they say that they have 2 patents issued and 1 pending.
For what?
They say their patents are for the material themselves and for the use of grip on packaging and the dispensing material, along for its use on sports equipment. Then we have Barbara wondering how they got their customers to come to them in the first place, and they inform us that that's actually the biggest problem they're having and part of why they are here today. They say that once people have it and try it, they can't get enough of it, but the problem is getting people to know it even exists. Unfortunately, while Rashawn agrees that the product is really good and probably could blow up if it got in the right hands, unfortunately it's just not the right fit for him because as a venture capitalist, his whole thing is adding fuel to projects that are already growing really fast. So he's out. Then we have Lori, who decides to combine 2 of her favorite classic lines for going out, which are, number 1, she needs to be passionate about the products she's investing in, and this isn't really in her wheelhouse. On top of that, she thinks it's a really great business for them, but not investable for her, so she's out. However, Kevin is interested, but he says the only way this deal will work is if he does a royalty, because their valuation is absolutely ridiculous. So he offers them the $400,000 for 4% with a royalty of $2.50 a unit until he makes back $4 million. Then it drops down to what he calls nothing, and by nothing, he means 25 cents in perpetuity. The entrepreneurs then turn for a minute to talk amongst themselves, during which we, the audience, can hear one of them go, I don't think we should do this. But while they're talking, the sharks are also talking, and Rashawn says he thinks it's such a good offer that he's willing to split it with Kevin, and Kevin's willing to bring them in. Once the entrepreneurs turn around, before they can say anything, Kevin informs them of the new offer, which they seem a lot more interested in. Kevin talks about how he can help with the socials and marketing, and Rashawn talks about how he can help with athlete involvement, and they end up making a deal with Kevin and Rashawn for $400,000 for 4% with a royalty of $2.50 a unit until they're paid back $4 million. Then it drops down to 25 cents in perpetuity. Gotta love a Kevin deal. They're always a mouthful. This is the world's dumbest, nichest crossover joke, but I don't care because I kept making this joke in my head to myself whenever I was writing my notes, watching the show. Literally, the moment I saw it, I thought to myself, oh, this is perfect for Joan if she ever needs to get rid of chalk. Gotta love a Bachelor Shark Tank crossover. Anyway, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not really our sporty shark. Well, I guess I'm not really a shark. I don't have the money like a shark. I might be like a minnow. Whatever I am, I'm not the sporty one. So I'm not really up on things like this. I did read some reviews. It had good reviews on Amazon. Then I went on some different like forums and subreddits and saw mixed opinions. If it works, awesome. I don't really have a whole lot to say about the product itself. As far as the pitch, I for one was shocked they got a deal, especially with that wild valuation. I don't really feel like we got to hear a lot of their sales numbers, and maybe some of that was edited out and the sales numbers were really good and it made it seem more enticing to the sharks. So good for them. I hope it works out. I, for one, was just shocked. If you've tried it, if you know anything about this sort of stuff, I'd love to hear from you. Our third pitch of the night is Creator Camp. Kasdan, Kai, and Jackie walked into the tank looking for $350,000 for 5% of their camp that teaches kids creative outlets while using technology. And what it is a summer camp that teaches kids different things like video editing, game design, and other STEM skills. Obviously, $7 million is the valuation, doesn't quite math with their sales, so Kevin wants to know how exactly they got there, and like many entrepreneurs before them, they say that they're looking at the future of what this business could be. They talk about that next year they're looking to expand it by 35 locations and do $1.3 million in revenue, and that would be with them still confined to their home state of Texas. And beyond, in the future, they're looking to expand this nationwide, starting with DC. Lori then asks if this is all their full-time job, which they say yes. And then we get the exact percentage of all their partnership, which I thought was really interesting. Kai is at 26%, Kasdan is 24%, and Jackie is 22%. On top of that, they have one full-time employee who is their IT guy who has 1%. And they also have another co-founder who I assume is at 28% because that's how the math is, but they don't tell us that, and I don't know. I do think it's kind of surprising that the founder with the most equity wouldn't be on Shark Tank, but that does happen from time to time, especially in a group of founders. You know, somebody has something to do. One of my favorites is one from like last year or a couple of years ago where one of the 4 founders wasn't there because his team was in like the World Series or something like that, and it's like, yeah, that's fair. To clarify, the team he supported was in the World Series. I feel like most people would get that, but just to be clear, he wasn't like a famous MLB player or anything. His team he supports was in a very big game. I think it was the World Series, could be wrong, I don't know. Then we find out something about Mark that I didn't want to know, and I think I'm just going to promptly forget, which is the fact that he has a foundation called Mark Cuban's AI Boot Camp. It's free and it teaches AI concepts to kids, and because it's too similar, he goes out. Number one, I really, from looking at it, don't feel like they're honestly that similar, to be real. And then number two, I'm not a fan of AI in most cases and senses, and I don't want to think about this anymore. So that's it. Mark's out. Anyway, then there's Lori, who thinks it's super clever, but it's just not the right investment for her. So she's out. Kevin jumps in to say that he thinks they're really good operators, but they came in just asking for too much money. If they hadn't asked for $350,000, maybe he would have taken a flyer on them, but unfortunately at this time, he's out. Then we have Rashawn, who loves it, says a couple times, like, this is a great idea, this needs to happen, but Obviously, because of what he does with venture capital, this isn't a fit for him, and he's out. If it's not obvious to you, that's totally okay. Pretty much the long and short version of it is with venture capital, you're looking for investments that are going to grow really quickly. You're dumping a bunch of money onto something and making it just shoot up and grow as fast as possible. Venture capital, for the most part, it's like revenue, profitability later, versus this is just a very normal growth company. It's going to be a slow burn compared to venture capital, so that doesn't work. That might be a kind of mean and biased view of venture capital, but if Rashawn gets to go on a tangent about safes, I get to do my own little tangent about how all venture capital cares about is just dumping a bunch of money on stuff and hoping it works. So anyway, fight with me about that if you want in the comments. But there's still hope, because Barbara sees the vision for this growing as a franchise, and Barbara is our queen of franchise businesses, and she decides to make them an offer, but she wants to be an equal partner with them, which she says in her mind would be 25%, but she understands that they have some other people, like it's obviously not an equal 4, the 3 of them and Barbara, so she will generously go down and make it an even 20%. And their first thing is to try to counter for 15%.
How about 20?
Then they try countering her 17.5%, but Barbara reminds them that she's already come down from what she wanted, which was 25%, and they can all just meet in the middle at 20, which is so, I love that she keeps, multiple times she's kind of like, I already came down, which, I mean, I guess is true in her mind, of like, she wanted 25, but like, did she really come down if she was ever going to offer? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Their next move is to try to see if Barbara will give them more money by asking for $400,000 for the 20%, but Barbara is not budging.
I like these guys.
At this point, it's all come to a head and it's time for them to make a decision when Barbara so graciously decides to come down even further from her 25% to 19%. They give a last final counter of 18%, and they end up making the deal with Barbara for $350,000 for 18%. So to start off, my very first thing I do with a lot of this is I go look at the business's website, and their website definitely has some issues. I don't know if part of it is because this is a summer camp and they're obviously not running camps right now, but I mean, it wasn't just like there wasn't much to look at. It's like certain buttons weren't clicking through how they should have been clicking through. It was very odd, so I was kind of having some trouble even kind of picturing what the different classes looked like to sign up for. But again, it might just be because they're looking at stuff because there's not classes right now, because it's not summer. I just wanted to say that because I do bring it up because it happened. I will say though, at the time in the tank when they were talking about it, they were just doing in-person classes, and it looks like they have also ventured into online classes, which I think is a really good move for them. I think the online classes will be a great business move. I also agree with Barbara that I think franchising it is also 100% the best move. So I feel like partnering with Barbara, like they really, I think this can go places. I will say on the other hand of it, it's not like any of this is proprietary, so there's that issue. Then there's also the huge issue of people being like, well, you can look up how to do these skills for free. There's free online courses, which I totally hear and I understand. But to be fair to that also, there's the other side of it's good to go send your kid to a camp. It's good to have kids interact with other kids doing activities they like to do. You don't get that from just the online classes. So there is something about that. I think my biggest whole thing with it is the marketing within it. Because if you look at it as, I like the name Creator Camp, but I feel like it does also give a connotation of like putting kids into a mill of like making them content creators, which I don't like. I'm very much not a person who like advocates for putting children on the internet, especially to make money, like family vlogs, all that. But that's kind of a conversation for either a different video or maybe a different channel that's not even mine. But if you actually go look at like what the classes are and what they're teaching, I am very into that. When I was a kid, I would have loved a class like that. I was super into videos and video editing. Obviously still am. They also have gaming, like programming type classes. All the skills that they're teaching are very cool and very interesting. I just hope they stay away from marketing it as like an influencer camp, because that's definitely the vibe I got when they were first pitching it. I don't know if that was just an issue with like the editing of everything or what, but I would definitely try to focus more on the skills side of it. That would be my advice and critique. Because, I think it's a really cool thing. Again, it's not proprietary, because, I mean, I know a place in my town that does do, like, after-school classes like this. They're like a STEM hub, like a maker's hub, and they do classes like this, so it's kind of one of those things of getting out there. But overall, the idea is good. That is the nugget, the crust, the middle of what I want to say. Our fourth and final pitch of the night is Y'all Sweet Tea. Brandon and Darian walked into the tank looking for $500,000 for 5% of their sweet tea business. Here it is. It is literally just sweet tea bags. It's just either plain sweet tea or they have different flavors, but it's just sweet tea. At the moment, they sell on their website and we're in 600 grocery stores. Their goal is to get into bigger box stores, and they said they have had some talks with Walmart. It sounds like they were just talks though, not like purchase orders in hand sort of thing. It cost them $2.67 to make. It wholesales for $4.34 and retails for $7.25. They've been in business since 2021, and we get a sales ramp, which y'all know I love. 2021, they did $1.2 million. 2022, they did $2 million. 2023, $4 million, and year to date they had done $3 million, and we're projecting to do $5 million plus, meaning they have a lifetime total sales of $10.3 million. So obviously our next question, are they profitable? And the answer is yes, but there's like kind of some stipulations with it. Last year they profited 20%, so around $800,000, but this year they're going to be break even because they've taken everything they've made so far and just dumped it back into ads. So like they could be profitable, but they're not because they're dumping it into ads. Speaking of ads, they came up with this because they didn't feel like other tea brands were doing enough to build a social media influence and presence. And that's their biggest focus, social media marketing, with their team of expert influencers.
Our influencers are Southern grandmas.
Yes, their influencers are grannies, which yeah, that does work on me a little. I do like grannies selling me stuff. They also give all the sharks samples of the tea, and they give them one that's unsweet, a sweet, and then one of their different flavors. And Kevin doesn't have a flavored one. And then there's this whole bit where the grandma that they brought out is like, well, I was trying to make one sweet enough for you, but I don't know if there's one to sweeten you up enough, so I'm giving you our fan favorite, Georgia Peach, and I hope that sweetens you up. And it's just this such a funny interaction. I wish I could play the clip, but it's so long, I know it would just take this whole video down, so you're gonna have to do with my reenactment of it, so I hope it was good enough for you. I knew one day I'd use this acting degree for something. Then Mark asks the question I am wondering, which is, what was the logic behind dumping all that money into advertising? They say that they want brand recognition, so hopefully by the time they're in those big box stores, people will already know about them.
So which would you rather have? A brand that is recognized or be rich as
Mark has gotten bleeped twice this episode, and I am living for it. I am living for this Mark senior year of high school energy. Like, oh, it's making me miss him even more already, and it's only episode 5. I'm just like, The math just still isn't mathing for Mark, and they start to clear it up some, saying they also launched a bunch of different flavors last year, and that's where some of the money went, not just the advertising. They then tell us when they launched their Georgia Peach flavor last year, they sold 10,000 in 35 minutes on their website, which all the sharks are very impressed about, but also gets them all being like, why are you even focusing on big box stores then when your D2C is doing so well? Like, just ignore the big box stores for now. Then Rashawn interjects to say he's heard enough and he wants to make a deal. So he makes them an offer of $500,000 for 10%. Since his whole thing is more just venture capital, he tells them he doesn't care which way they go. Direct to consumer, big box, a mix of both. He's the money guy. He can provide them with capital and access to certain things, but they are free to do whatever they want to do. He is just there to add fuel to the fire. And a lot of the sharks are kind of like, yeah, you should just take that. They're immediately like, yep, just take that. That's great. when Lori's like, well, what do you want the future of your business to be? And they say they want to grow it to a place of $10-20 million and eventually have a nice exit.
That's what Rashawn does.
So Mark responds to this saying, he's a cash guy. He cares about making money, and Rashawn is a growth guy who cares about sales. So he is a perfect shark for them, and he should just go that route. So Mark is out. Barbara also decides to say she is out and clearing the way for Rashawn. Then Rashawn starts to talk about how he can help with adding capital, but he's interested in hearing what the other sharks have to say since they can help with more of the areas of big box and retail. And immediately Kevin is very interested in this. And as he's talking to the entrepreneurs about how he could help by partnering with Rashawn, Lori starts whispering and planning with Rashawn just like right over to the side. And the next bit of this show was so funny and weird and confusing. And I just imagine standing there like as a producer, as somebody just in the background watching this happen like, what? So again, we have Kevin talking while Rashawn and Lori are planning and talking. And Kevin says and offers to the entrepreneurs that him and Rashawn will go in together for $500,000 for 20%.
Okay, well, the plot thickens over here. Because Lori wants to get involved and help scale this thing to the moon as well.
And Rashawn informs us that him and Lori have come together to make an offer of $500,000 for 15%, aka undercutting the deal that Kevin just made for them. I do want to point out though, in Kevin's defense, it's not like Kevin just willy-nilly was trying to partner with Rashawn. Rashawn openly expressed interest in hearing from other sharks, and as far as the editing, as far as we saw it, Rashawn says this, and Kevin immediately expresses interest in partnering with Rashawn, but Rashawn just doesn't listen to Kevin talking at all. So it's not like Kevin was just being delusional. It was very odd. It was all very odd timing. It worked out very weird. Weird vibes all around.
Excuse me, Lori, I've already made an offer with Rashawn unless you are throwing me under the bus.
So at this point, Rashawn feels like we need a refresher because at this point, there are 3 different offers that he has made and is open to. All of the offers are offering $500,000. It's just the equity that's different. The first one is just him for 10%. The second is him and Kevin for 20%, and the third is him and Lori for 15%. Obviously, at this point, Kevin's like, well, fine, to be competitive, I'll go down to 15%. So at this point, what are y'all gonna do? You're just picking between if you want an extra person and if you want that extra person to be me, aka Kevin or Lori. The entrepreneurs then thank the sharks for the variation on offers from Rashawn, and they counter saying they want more money, and they try $750,000 for 15%. And you hear the 15%, and that would lead you to assume that they're specifically countering the Rashawn and Lori offer, as that was 15%. My assumption is that Kevin did not hear that 15% part of their counter offer.
I'm staying at 500. I mean, I just bring too much value to it. There's only one Mr. Wonderful.
Then Rashawn does that thing that I feel like all of these venture capital investing bros love to do, which is just say no in the longest way possible. He talks about if they accept their offer, next time they're raising, they'll be at 2 or 3x, and you won't even notice the equity you gave up. And it's actually going to be better for you if you do the math. And so, no, we're sticking to the $500,000. Just the long back and forth. Just to be like, no. And then one more time for good measure, Rashawn gives us all 3 offers again. I'm going to spare us because I think we can all keep up well enough with where we are. And after they take a moment to talk it over, they end up making a deal with Rashawn and Lori for $500,000 for 15%. When they ended up making the deal, it reminded me of Damon from a couple weeks back when Kendra made the deal with the skiers and he was like, you skiers deserve each other. That's how I felt at the end of this. I was like, you venture capitalists deserve each other. I don't care. First things first, though, to be 100% honest, full transparency and disclaimer, as far as the product itself goes, I 100% would try this. I don't see myself buying this, especially having to ship it to myself, but if it came to a grocery store near me, I would try it. But it would only be because it's a Shark Tank drink, and I love a fun drink. So if it's a fun drink that's been on Shark Tank, I'm gonna buy it once just to try it. So it's not like I would buy this on its own. If this had not been on Shark Tank and I just saw it at the store, it's like a 50-50 if I would have bought it or not. I do love buying fun random things, and the packaging is cute, but it just kind of would depend on the day. But because it's a Shark Tank product, I'd try it. If it comes to me, I would try it and give it a review. But as far as the business model and the pitch itself being on Shark Tank goes, it's just not one I really care a whole lot about. It'd be different if they were doing something substantially different in the tea market. I don't even know exactly what that would be, but at the end of the day, it's just a well-marketed tea brand, and I will give them that. Obviously, the marketing is going well because theoretically they could be profitable if they weren't dumping it all into ads. So I'll give them that. They're marketing it well, but at the end of the day, that's really what it is. It's like a marketing business, and I don't know, that's just not really my vibe. As I do with all the products, I went on their website, poked around a little, and since their time on the tank, they have also ventured into things like coffee and spices, which the coffee is kind of odd, but makes more sense. Coffee, tea. The spices feels very random. They're doing like a thing where they're y'all brands. It's all under y'all brands, and then there's like the y'all sweet tea, the y'all spices. Very odd. That's the update I have for you though on that. If you've tried any of it, especially the new stuff like the coffee and the spices, please let me know. I very much want to hear, like, how is it? Is it different from normal spices? Would love to know. And that is a wrap on Shark Tank Season 16, Episode 5. For the most part, I really liked this episode, even though it has my least favorite guest shark on it. I really liked the different products. I thought it was, overall, a fun one to watch. As always, I want to hear from you. Have you tried any of the products? Are you gonna try any of the products? I want to know your thoughts, feelings, opinions, all that and more down below. If you liked the video, do not forget to like it. And if you like this sort of thing, subscribe to the channel. Again, I want to get to 1,000 by my 3-year anniversary next year. So if you want to help me, that'd be great. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.